Hello and welcome to eCampus. Today we are going to be attempting another Cambridge IGCSE Physics paper from May-June 2024. This one is paper number 1 and variant number 3. Paper 1 happens to be the multiple choice questions. So there are 40 in total. So let's start from question number 1. Alright, so a student wishes to find the volume of a small irregularly shaped stone. A ruler and a measuring cylinder containing some water are available. Which apparatus is needed? So the volume of irregular shaped stone or any object irregularly shaped, the one way to find the volume is to submerge it in water and measure the amount or volume of water displaced. So we have been given some water, a measuring cylinder containing some water and a ruler. A number of students uh, mark the option C as the right answer because obviously they need measurement. But there is slight detail into the measuring cylinder because on a measuring cylinder you have some markings as well, so you don't need the ruler. The correct answer is measuring cylinder only. Moving on, a car travels along a road at a constant speed, which correctly describes the speed time graph of the car. Pretty straightforward. So if a car is traveling at a constant speed, that means its speed is not changing with respect to time, so its line or the graph should be a horizontal line. That's pretty straightforward. Moving on, coming on to question number 3. So four objects are moving along a straight line. The distance of each object from a fixed point on the line is plotted against time. Which object is decelerating? So we have been given distance time graphs, and we have to find out which object is decelerating. So an object is decelerating if its velocity is decreasing with time. So we're gonna solve this question intuitively. In A, we see that the distance is increasing at a constant rate. That means it's moving with a uniform velocity because the slope of this distance time graph is a constant. So option A is excluded. Uh, about B, it's straightforward excluded because the distance from a fixed point is increasing at an exponential rate, so it cannot be decelerating as well. If we have a look at option number D, we see that object distance is decreasing but at a constant rate. That refers to as a constant velocity. If an object is if the velocity is constant, it cannot be decelerating. So the only option left is this option C. And this is also logical because we see if we draw the tangents in different points, we see that the slope of these tangents are decreasing and coming towards zero. That means the velocity is also decreasing. So there are two different ways of looking at it, but we can also find out the intuitive one. So option C is the right answer. Moving on, question number 4. An object is taken from Earth to the moon and the acceleration of free falls are given on Earth and moon. Which row correctly describe the mass and weight of the object on the moon compared to on the Earth? The first column is the mass and we have been given the weight on the second column. Well, mass is a material property. It's the same on Earth, the moon. If you go in anywhere in the universe, the mass remains the same. So A and B are excluded. So C and D. Well, the weight is equals to mg, mass times the acceleration due to gravity. So weight would be less than that on the Earth. So option D would be the right answer. Right. Moving on. The diagram shows some liquid in a measuring cylinder. The mass of the liquid is 16 grams. And what is the density? So density has a straightforward formula, mass per volume. We've been given the mass as 16 grams. Also, the volume can be carefully seen here to be 20 centimeter cube. Yeah, and we don't need to convert it into meter cube because the answers are in centimeter cube. So density is equal to 16 divided by 20. That gives us 0.8 gram per centimeter cube. Option number A. Moving on, question number 6. A single force acts on an object and the volume of the object does not change. Which statement is correct? So the volume is not changing. That means it's not compressing. It's its volume is not changing. So let's analyze the statements one after the another and determine which one is correct. The density of the object changes. No, since the volume is not changing and mass happens to be the same, so density would remain the same. A is wrong. Um, the velocity of the object changes. Yeah, from second law of Newton, if a force acts on an object, it should accelerate. Uh, well, there is a concept of inertia as well, but the velocity should increase. We are assuming something's there. So B is the right answer. Similarly, we can also see C and D. The mass object changes, no. The weight of the object changes, no, because we are on the same planet. So the velocity of the object changes. B is the right answer. Moving on, four electric motors do the same quantity of work when they lift a weight of 10 newtons through the same distance. All right, so the time taken by each motor to lift the weight are shown. Which is the time, what is the time taken by the motor which produces the most power? So power is equal to work done per unit time. Since they are doing the same work, that means work is constant. So power is inversely proportional to the time. So the motor which produces the most power would take the least time. So which is the least time? Yeah, 1.5 seconds. All right, that's good. Moving on. Question number 8. Which law describes how the pressure beneath the surface of a liquid depends on the depth below the surface and on the density of the liquid? Again, two columns are given. One is showing the depth, other is showing the density. The first thing or the first principle that comes to mind is the Archimedes principle or the concept of buoyancy. So that principle gives us the standard formula of pressure on an object beneath a liquid is equal to rho, the density, g, the acceleration due to gravity, acceleration of free fall, and the distance or the height of by which the object is submerged inside water. So pressure decreases with increasing depth? No. Pressure increases with increasing depth, and no. So option D is the right answer because pressure is directly proportional to both the density and the depth. So D is the right answer. Number 9, in which process does a gas turns into a liquid? Very straightforward. We experience it every day. It's condensation. Moving on. Question number 10. A pollen grain in a beaker of still water is viewed through a microscope. Which diagram shows the most likely movement of a pollen grain? The movement of a pollen grain on the surface of water can be explained by Brownian motion, and that motion should be sporadic, random in nature. Out of AB series, I only see A is the random one. So this should be the movement of the pollen grain. A few of you might say B is also random, but you see this is not completely random. We see it's only moving at right angles. So pollen grain might not be moving at right angles only. So A is the right answer. All right, moving on to question number 11. What is the relationship between temperature in Kelvin and temperature in degrees Celsius? Kelvin is T, whereas theta is used to denote the degree Celsius scale. So it's quite straightforward. It happens to be B. And one way to remember is that there is absolute zero. The minimum temperature in Kelvin scale is 0 Kelvin, whereas in Celsius scale is minus 273 degrees Celsius. So one way to remember is that. So 11th option is the answer to question number 11 is B. Moving on. Question number 12. In a famous experiment, the scientists showed that when water in an insulated tub is stirred, its temperature increases. What can be concluded? Temperature is store of energy? No. The water absorbs heat from surroundings? Well, since it is insulated, so no. Work done by stirring increases the internal energy of water? Yeah, that's right, and that internal energy in the form of thermal energy is increased due to their collisions. So correct answer is C. And this one is absolutely criminal. So right answer is C. Yeah. Moving on to question number 13. Solid expands when heated and contract when cooled. In which example is there a useful application and not an unwanted effect? Bridges, railway lines. Well, There are they do expand. Bridges do expand. Railway lines do expand in summer season, but that's an unwanted effect. There are compensations for that. So the useful effect is these thermostats. Thermostats are used to measure the temperature, and when they expand or contract, depending upon the temperature, the resistance changes, and that's how we find out what's the temperature is. That's a good and useful application. Moving on to question number 14. A rod is made of half aluminum and half of glass. A pin is attached by wax. The rod is heated at the center. A pin falls off when the wax melts. Which statement is correct? Pin P falls off first because aluminum is a better conductor than glass. Yeah, it is correct. Well, this thing, this pin P will falls off first because this is a better conductor of electricity than conductor of heat than the glass. So option A is absolutely right. We see others as well, uh, but they're not correct definitely. Moving on to question number 15. In countries where it is usually hot, houses are often painted white. What is the reason? Well, white surfaces are good reflectors of infrared light. That is absolutely right. Um, yeah, good conductor of infrared radiation, good absorbers. No, they are good reflectors of infrared light. So 15A is the right answer. Yeah, moving on. What is the name of the distance from one crest in a transverse wave to the next crest? Yeah, that's wavelength for you. That's pretty straightforward. That's the definition of wavelength. Often students sometimes confuse that to wavefronts as well, but that's wavelength by definition. Question number 17. Waves on the surface of water travel from deep water to shallow water. Well, that's one of the examples given in the book as well. Which diagram shows the correct path of the waves in the shallow water? All right, so water is moving from deeper water to the shallow water. Well, it's the water speed or the water currents in the deep water are higher compared to shallower water because shallower water there is seabed closer to the currents, water currents. So there is resistance offered by the seabed. That's why the shallow water water speed or wave speed is lower. So these are wave fronts shown. So if I may draw, the wave would look like this. Yeah, that's a poor representation, but yes. And here it would look like this. Let's take option number one initially. Yeah. So when waves enter the medium of lower speed, it moves away. It moves towards the normal. So yeah, let's say this is the normal. So this wave is moving towards the normal, right? So it happens to be the right answer. Yeah. If you look at others, I'm not going to be drawing all those due to shortage of time. But yeah, 17A is the right answer. When the wave is moving a medium of slower speed, where it slows down, it moves towards the normal. Moving on, question number 18. The diagram shows a thin converging lens with the principal focuses f1, f2. A smart light source is placed at f1. Let's say this is the light source. And yeah, a beam of light from the source passes through the lens. Which statement correctly describes the beam of light emerging from the lens? All right, so since this is passing through the center of the lens, so it should travel straight along the principal axis. So yeah, that's not called convergence, but it will reach point f2, but that's not called convergence. Yeah, the beam travels parallel to the principal axis. Moving on. Yeah, question number 19. A student reads the following relationship in his physics book. What I is equal R? What is the student reading about? Yeah, it seems like he is studying reflection, and that represents angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. So this is a reflection in a plane mirror. Moving on to question number 20. The table shows information about different colors of light. The frequencies are given against color. Using data, what is the frequency of orange light? Well, We know orange is made up of some of yellow and some of red. And we also know, if you remember the EM spectrum, the visible light, and this is the increasing direction of frequency, R is here and blue is here and everything is between. So red color contains the lowest of the frequencies. So since orange is made up of yellow and red, so we should be seeing orange somewhere here, higher than frequency, higher than the red, and lesser, shorter or lesser than the yellow. So 4, no, yeah, B 5, yeah, others are not in the range, so B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 21. All right, the table gives the wavelength of three electromagnetic waves named PQR with their wavelengths in meter given. Which row correctly identifies P, Q, and R? So we have microwave, radio waves, and X-rays, and different combinations are given. So we have to determine which one is which. So remember again the electromagnetic spectrum. If we arrange it with respect to wavelength this time, on the very left side would we find the radio waves with the highest wavelengths. The increasing direction is this one. And on the right hand side would we find the X-rays with the lowest wavelengths and very high frequencies. There would be other gammas and all that, but we are just considering these three. And somewhere in the middle or closer to the X-rays would be microwaves. So we need to adjust them accordingly. Radio waves would be the highest one. So we would give them, this to R would be the radio waves. And then the shortest would be Q would be X-rays. And this would be micro. So P would be micro. Q would be X-rays, and that would give us B. Yeah. Moving on, question number 22. A healthy human ear is able to hear a range of frequencies. What is this approximate range? Well, these kind of questions are free marks, shouldn't lose them. So 20 to 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. Moving on, question number 23. A student hits two wooden blocks together in front of a wall and calculates the speed of sound to be 340 meter per second. The time between the student hitting the block and hearing the echo is 0.59 seconds. What is the distance between the student and the wall? Well, distance can be calculated as speed times by the time. Yeah, so the speed 340 multiplied by the time 0.59, that gives us approximately, yeah, 200 meters. But hold on a minute, this 200-meter distance is found out by the time taken to receive the echo as well. Yeah, so the distance would be half of it. So distance would be 100 meter, because there is this line, the time between the student hitting the block and the hearing the echo. Obviously, this is twice the distance, so we have to half it. Moving on, question number 24. Yeah, the diagram shows part of the magnetic field between two bar magnets, X and Y. Which statement about the ends of the magnet is correct? Well, remember the magnetic field line, if for example this is South Pole, they emanate or originate from north side and end on the south side. So we can safely say that X is the North Pole and Y is the South Pole. Yeah, because they are terminating on it. So X is the North Pole and Y is the South Pole. So 24th right answer is C. Moving on to question number 25. Yeah, diagrams 1, 2, and 3 shows an experiment to compare two magnets, 1 and 2. There are three diagrams. Yeah, which row explains the readings on the balances, right? When you place a single magnet, the scale reads 125.3. When magnet 1 is arranged in this manner with X on this side, its distance decreased. That means it is applying a pulling force upward. So The pulling force can only be applied if this is a south pole. Similarly, the hair distance is increasing, so it should be a pushing force. So north pole here. So X is south and Z is the north pole. X is south and Z north pole. 25th right answer is C. Question number 26. Which graph of voltage against time shows an AC voltage? Well, a number of students, well, majority of them opt for straight away option number C. But alternating voltage, why by definition, is where the voltage alternates its polarity. Sinusoidals are often referred to the AC voltage because their polarity changes. So the right answer is option number D, because only this one changes the polarity. Here there is an offset, so it's not changing polarity. So C is not the right answer. We have to be focused here. Question number 27. There is a current I in a resistor for a time t. The PD across the voltage is V. What does the product IVT represent? So I, V, and T. This thing is power. So power multiplied by time is equal to work done. Or we can also say energy transferred. So charge, no. Energy transferred by the resistor, yes. 27th B is the right answer. Question number 28. A student designs a circuit to turn on a fan when the temperature increases. Which component does the student need to use in her circuit? Well, it he needs or she needs a temperature sensor. Temperature sensor is this thing. This thing is, by the way, called thermistor. So D is the right answer. Question number 29. Four statements about safety when designing electrical products are listed. If the outer casing is a conductor, it should be earthed, or it should not be earthed. Similarly, if outer casing is an insulator, should it or should it not be earthed? Which statement is correct? So when the outer casing is a conductor, it should be earthed. Why? Because in case of a fault or in case of a short circuit, there should be a path of least resistance that would simply dispose of the excess current or the fault. So yes, it should be earthed. And in case if the outer casing is an insulator, well, there is no point earthing it, because in case of a fault itself, uh, the it would not harm the user. So there is even no point earthing the insulating casing. So it is option number, yeah, 1 and 4. So B is the right answer. Moving on, question number 30. A transformer has 400 turns on the primary coil and connected to 240 volt AC mains. There are two secondary coils to serve different parts of television. Secondary coil 1 has 25 turns, secondary coil 2 has 20 turns. Which row is correct? So this is sort of a transformer and there are two coils here. So this is number of turns in the primary, voltage of primary, and secondary, let's say these are the number of turns on secondary 1 and secondary 2. So which row is correct? We remember the formula for the turns ratio. Np over Ns is equal to Vp over Vs. We can find any, uh, let's take first secondary, for example. This one here turns are 2500 turns. So we need to find the Vs. So Np is 400 over Ns is 2500, 240 over Vs. Yeah, Vs comes out to be 1500 volts. So we are talking about the first primary, so B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 31. A class is designing a DC motor to achieve a greater turning effect. These suggestions are made like having a larger current in the coil of the motor, having a stronger magnet, and put a larger number of turns on the coil. Which suggestions will help to increase the turning effect? It's pretty much clearly mentioned in the book. All three of them would increase the turning effect. If you increase the current, it will increase the turning effect. Stronger magnet or more number of coils, all would increase turning effect. So right answer is A, 1, 2, and 3. Which statement about the structure of an atom is correct? So it contains positively charged particles only? No, they are electrons as well. It contains negatively? No. It contains no charged particles? That's absurd. It contains positively charged particles and negatively charged particles. Yeah, D is the right answer. Moving on to question number 33. Yeah, nuclide strontium is represented by strontium, where 90 is the nucleon number, 38 is the proton number or atomic number. Which row gives the number and location of the electrons in an atom? We're talking about electrons, right? So electrons are electron number is equal to the proton number, so 38, and their location is surrounding the nucleus, right? So B is the right answer. This is an easy one. You shouldn't have a hard time attempting it. Question number 34. A radiation detector in a laboratory is measuring background radiation. Which row describes the reading and the cause? Well, the reading, either it's vary with no pattern or slowly increase, slowly reduce during the day. Well, C and D are not true. There is no particular pattern of increase and reduction during day and night. However, they vary with no pattern, and that's because background radiations are random or uh, sporadic, or there's randomness there. So the background radiation, if you measure them, there is so much randomness. So A is the right answer. Moving on to question number 35. The nuclei of the atom in a substance are changing randomly and emitting radiations. What is happening? Well, yeah, radioactive decay. If the nuclei are changing, any they are daughter products are generating, or they are changing or emitting radiations, they are undergoing radioactive decay. So D is the right answer. Moving on to question number 36. What is the safest way to store a radioactive source? In a lead lined box, shelf, glass bottle, fume cupboard? Well, B, C, and D are absurd. For radioactive stores, we need a material whose density is higher. So lead lined box in a metal cabinet is the best way. We have a lead lined box itself, plus there's a metal cabinet. Both have higher densities, or lead particularly. Question number 37. Which row explains the apparent daily motion of the sun and the cycle of phases of the moon? Again, we have two columns. First one is for daily motion of the sun across the sky. Well, the earth rotates on its axis once every 24 hours. And for the moon orbits the earth approximately every month. So B is the right answer. Moving forward, yeah, question number 38. The nearest star to the sun is 4 light years away. A spaceship travels at 0.1% of the speed of light. What is the total time taken for a journey from sun to the star and back? Yeah, so sun is 4 light years away, and spaceship is traveling at 0.1% of speed of light. So 4 divided by 0.001, that's 4,000 one side. So for two-sided journey, and um, it's 8,000 years. 38. D is the right answer. Question number 39. In which region of the electromagnetic spectrum does the sun radiate most of its energy? Well, we can recall the chapter. It's infrared to ultraviolet region. Obviously, it covers the IR region, infrared, then there's a visible region, then there is the UV region. So this is a region where sun radiates most of its energy. And coming on to the final question of the paper, what is the approximate diameter of the Milky Way? Well, it should be in light years. So A and B should be out. And as we remember, it was 100,000 light years. So C is the right answer. All right, that's it for the paper. Um, if you have any queries, you can post in the comment section, or you can visit our page of eCampus. We also offer one-on-one and live classes for our students, and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.